Well, good morning, everyone. Out here, maybe gonna take the 4720 out back for a little bit, do a little work with her. Always constant maintenance on this thing because you want her to be in tip-top shape every time you use her. So, great little tractor, 66 horse worth of fun. I enjoy the shit out of this thing. It does a great job for me, and there's nothing like the air-conditioned comfort of the cab. Audio system's nice too in it, so which all things that I upgraded on it, but she's a fun little toy to play with, and she'll do quite a bit. So a little walk around of her. Plenty of hydraulic capability on the back, 2 SCVs, plus the Power Beyond, so she's got a lot of extra toys on her. Excuse me. So the Tartar mower, this thing's been pretty darn great. Really impressed with it. There are a couple things that I don't like about it, but for the most part, it's a good little unit. Works really well. 72-inch wide cut path. The wheels on it are the only thing I can complain about. One of them has kind of come out of round, and the forks there that they sit in, they tend to bend on that. Now it's maybe a 5/8 inch to 3/4 inch steel rod that goes up through there. That's my only disappointing factor about this thing, is that they tend to bend. Other than that, the mower itself has been a great deck. It's strictly a lawn mower. It's not brush hog or anything like that, and I wouldn't dare try and even do anything big with it. It's just to groom the yard and stuff like that. And well, as you can see here, the yard's a good size. I mean, I've got 4 acres that I mow in total. So I got about 3 around the front of the place, and then it goes into about 1 acre out back into the wooded area. So plenty to maintain with it. Can cut this whole thing in about 3 hours for the 4 acres, which is really, really good compared to what I used to use. I had a little Craftsman 50-inch deck, 26 horse tractor, and that thing would take a minimum of 8 hours to do this area, where this thing cuts it down to less than half. And this thing actually does a much better job than the Craftsman used to. The only thing I don't like about it is because of the weight of the machine, and that, you know, this is no fault of the John Deere. This is, you know, my own choice of tractor. So the 4720 is, you know, with its front end loader, with the mower on the back, you're probably looking at around close to, you know, 8,000 pounds. So even with the turf tires on it, this thing still leaves, I don't know, grooves, ruts, whatever you want to call them, in the lawn as it goes. I mean, it puts its own mark in there, and I don't know if you can see it here close up to the driveway, but you can actually see the waves that are in the lawn from it. And it's pretty amazing that the weight of that tractor, even with the big turf tires on it, will leave indentations in the ground. So I've had to change my mowing patterns over the time with this thing, just because it does do that. And it's just a big heavy machine, and using it for what I'm using it for right now, there are a lot bigger plans for it along the way. I want to get a couple of other things for it. It's just a matter of time and money for buying the accessories I want for it. I'd like a backhoe for it, and I would like a nice brush hog and a box blade for it, and that would pretty much give me everything that I need for this thing around here, for what I'm doing with it. There are some other options and other things that I would like to have, but not really necessary for maintaining my property. A wood chipper wouldn't be bad for the back of it, and Woods and a couple of other companies make some pretty nice ones for them. But they're pretty expensive. Just about anything you buy for this thing, because of its sheer size, implement wise, is pretty expensive. The bucket on the front of this thing, when I bought it, was pretty beat up. I would like to replace this. For some reason, the gentleman who owned this prior to me ordered it with the light duty bucket, and 99% of the 4720s that you see out there that are, it's a 66 horse tractor, typically they're ordered with the heavy duty bucket. So that this thing is running the light duty bucket is very bizarre. It's bent. The guy must have tried to pull something out, a big stump or something with it, and literally the bucket yielded on him. And so I've just dealt with it ever since. It works fine for what I use it for currently. It's an expensive snow shovel. So using that, for that intended purpose for during the winters, it works great. I can move a lot of yards of snow with this thing very quickly, pushing down the driveway with it. So it's great for that. I mean, like I say, way overkill for what we get here. We get some decent winters with snow, 2, 3, 4 feet deep at times, and this thing just will blow right through it, going up and down the driveway. So it's a great machine. Very, very impressed with it. I've had it for about 3 years now. Bought it used. To buy the current model of this darn thing, new, you're looking, at over $70,000 to do that, and that's, kind of crazy for someone like me who's using it just, to maintain my property here. I've got about a little under 10 acres that I'm maintaining with it, and it, like I say, it's more than up to the task. It's been a really, really good machine. But it was something I had been dreaming about since the 4720 came out in 2011 with the bigger John Deere 4-cylinder in it. They had moved away from the Yanmar. There was a bit of a issue between John Deere and Yanmar, and Yanmar was supposed to be exclusive to them, and then Yanmar contracted with another tractor manufacturer to use the same engines that they were selling to John Deere. So John Deere turned around and said, well, we're not going to use your engine, we're going to put our big industrial engine in it. So it's got the bigger 4-cylinder in it, turbocharged, 66 horse, and you can tell it's a much bigger, beefier engine than the Yanmar when you look at the engine itself. Does a great job. Never had any issues with it in the 3 years that I've owned the darn thing, and it just runs good. I've gone through it and done fluid changes and everything else, filters, stuff like that, just to make sure she's all cleaned out and perfect. So she's got fresh hydraulic oil in her, she's got fresh engine oil in her, etc. And I do that, change the engine oil in it every year. I don't get enough hours on it during the year to justify doing it more than that, and actually I don't get enough hours on it to justify even changing it every year. So she's very well maintained living here with me. She's a pretty pampered princess, but a great machine nonetheless. So I'm gonna go out back with it, see if there's anything I need to clean up with it. There's an area in the back that I've been working on for a while, trying to expand, trying to get things a little bit more opened up back there in the back of the property. Oops, sorry about that, hit the gimbal. The other thing that's nice about it is the air-conditioned cab. Heated and air-conditioned, should I say. Works very nice. Tilt wheel, air ride seat, all the comforts of home that you could ask for. Now there's a constant problem with the tractors of this era. John Deere has two issues with it that you just kind of have to deal with, otherwise you just spend a lot of money and time chasing your tail. Error code 73 comes up, which is a ground fault. I have taken the ground off. I have sanded down the steel, put dielectric grease in it, and assembled it back, and then the error code goes away for a while, and then the error code comes back. The other thing that these tractors are famous for is the fuel sending unit is absolutely garbage in them. So it's telling me I'm out of fuel when in fact the tank is topped off right to the top of the fuel cap right now, and it should be reading full tank of fuel. Now at some point when I'm driving this around, that'll pop back up and it'll go to full tank, but it starts reading empty when it reaches 3/4 of a tank. It'll tell you, oh, I'm out. Now, right when I got this tractor, my biggest concern with it was the low hours on it. From the gentleman who owned it before me, he didn't use this thing very much. It sat in his driveway more for his kids and grandkids to play on as a toy than it was for him, something for him to use. He used to volunteer over at his neighbor's orchard, and he would put a sprayer behind this thing and just ride up and down their rows and spray the trees in their orchards with it. But he really never did a whole lot of work with it other than whatever he tried to move with the bucket and bent the bucket. But beyond that, she was a very pampered machine. She used to get sent into the John Deere dealer I purchased her from once a year, whether she needed it or not, to get all of her fluids changed, go through it, make sure everything was perfect on it. So it really led a great life with him. He was a football player for the Kansas City Chiefs. So this was that he had like 2 or 3 homes, and so this sat at one of his homes, and like I say, the kids and grandkids used to come and play in the cab on it, and never used it. So when I got her 3 years ago, it had 500 hours on it, which for a tractor from 2011, that was nothing. It had barely been used. So it was like new when I got it. For the most part, everything in it is really in nice shape. And so I've been enjoying her ever since. I had to take a run down to Clinton, Missouri to pick her up. But the John Deere dealership that I got her from was the dealership that originally sold it to him. And he traded this one in for the next one up. The guy wanted a 4066 because this one was quote-unquote getting old. And so he traded in for a 4066, which is just the newer version of this. And unfortunately for him, and fortunately for me, he did that because this is a Tier 1 engine. It has 0 emissions on it. It's a great engine, and the 4066 is an emissions engine that has to run all the regen on it, so it goes through that and runs its cycle, where this thing just does what it's supposed to do and don't have to worry about any of the regen, don't have to worry about any def or anything like that. John Deere has been good about doing that anyways with their tractors, not trying to put too much with def in them. So this one here is a non-emissions version, and because it has the bigger 4-cylinder John Deere engine in it, it's got some good grunt to it for a mid-sized tractor, I guess we'll call it. But yeah, good little machine. So we'll take a run back to the back of the property here and see how things are looking. I've been wanting to clear an area in the back here and put a lane through the back of my property, but I need a brush hog to do that with. So that's on my list of things to do for this machine, is to get a John Deere HX6 or an HX7 for the back of this, which is a nice heavy-duty brush hog for, and something I can take down 4-inch trees with without too much trouble. And what I've got going on back here is an area where I'd like to put a lane in the back, and then my neighbor and I have been discussing the potential of putting in a big pond in the back here. We've got quite a bit of water that comes through the back here in the spring and the fall with the snow melt and then the rains in the spring. So what we're looking to do is put a nice big pond in the back here for the deer and the duck and stuff like that. I'm not a hunter, but my neighbor, he hunts, and the deer kind of congregate on my property usually because they feel that they're pretty safe back here, which they are. With me, the biggest thing I shoot them with is a camera. So my neighbor, he never comes across my property line, but this back here is where we want to start pushing back at, and I've kind of come back here, started to push my way back in here, but it's very wet, as you can see. Even with the big turf tires on it, the big floaters, I still run into a bit of a problem with it because it's the tractor tends to want to sink in this, and I thought by clearing out a little bit of this at a time, inching my way back here, it would eventually dry out. But I've dug an area over here to the side, and you can see it's just a mud pit. I took a couple of scoops of mud out of here to fill in some of the area up front, and it's great for that. There's a lot of decaying woodlands, as you can see. I mean, this is extremely thick back here. Most of this stuff is 8 feet tall, higher than the tractor, maybe even 9 feet tall. So trying to get at this with what I've got currently on the machine is, kind of futile. I can't cut through this stuff with a finish mower when I need a brush hog. So we're going to have to get a brush hog for, and we'll come back here and start doing some encroachment on what's back here in the back. What I'd like to do is open a lane up. This goes back about 2, maybe 3 acres deep, and what I'd like to do is put a lane in back here that we can maintain and mow and everything else, and have access to my neighbor in the back of me. He's another guy who has a nice piece of property back there, and so we'd like to connect the two properties so it's easy for us to just go back and forth between the places with our four-wheelers and other things like that. So this is going to all get cleared a bit. I would imagine at one point in time it was pretty well cleared back here, and like I say, I've tried pushing through in this area right here. As you can see, I tried working my way back, but with that finish mower on the back, that was about all I could accomplish with it, and it was not happy. You had to really inch your way back there. And then as I started to sink in the mud back there with the front tires, it was like, yeah, time to pull her out of here and let's see if this dries up a bit. But so far, even with the clearing being done, it's not drying very well. She tends to stay pretty wet. You can see deer tracks all through the mud here as they've tried traversing through that and through what's there as a brush pile. I've been stacking stuff up from around the property back here, watching it just kind of become biodegradable over time. So we got a couple of trees that I've pushed over with this machine using the front end loader. It's amazing how effortless it is to shove a 8-inch, 9-inch tree over with this thing. It just goes right through it like it's nothing. So that's what you see back here, a bunch of those that have been pushed and moved over to this area. So yeah, a little tour of the property here, just as we're going around it. But yeah, we go pretty deep back there in the back. So that's what I want to do with it, is put it to some use. I've done some clearing in here. This used to be all fully grown in. You couldn't really get back through here very well. And so we've got some paths that we've started, and now some grass is starting to grow up through them. This was an entry area here. I cleared out last year, and now it's I need to go back in here and push a log out of the way in the back there. And as a matter of fact, let's see, gonna be how well I can do this with you guys here. See how much of that tree we can move. Trying to do front end loader work while holding the camera is kind of a little bit on the difficult side, but let's see here. As you can see, there's some big logs back here, and there's one right down here, right in front of us, that we'll see if we can get a hold of her, shove her out of the way. She came up out of the ground there. Kind of hard for you guys to see where I'm at with this, but that tree rolls pretty darn easy here. Again, just pushing this thing back. And I'm a little bit scared just back here because I don't know where I jump off into it being just wet property, and the front end of this thing just sinking right in on me. I'm not seeing, well, yeah, I guess I am seeing mud and water here. So we are getting into an area that is certainly not ideal to be venturing back in with this thing, but it'd be nice to have a grapple on this front end just to take this tree. And I'm just waiting to see this front end sink in here. Oh yeah, I can see water that I'm squishing up here. I'm not even really pushing with this thing at all. Further back we push, the more questionable it becomes here, because I'm into a bunch of trees and stuff. And I'm sticker in 4-wheel drive just to give me a little extra. That big log that we've just pushed back here is kind of sitting up on the bushes and the stuff that we've got back here to deal with. And as I'm just trying to back out of this, I can definitely feel her sinking in, and that worries me a bit. Let's see here. Oh yeah, we're in the mud pretty heavy here. Trying to maneuver her backwards here while I've got the rear differential engaged, because she's sinking in pretty good. Let's see if I can get you guys a good look at this. If you look right there in front of the bucket down low, it's muddy. We're just into mud, but shoving that back a little ways, getting that out of there, and that shoved over a whole bunch of that brush back here that we'd like to go through. Like I say, all that needs to be brush hogged, and I need a nice piece of equipment for this. So I was pricing them out online, and Now those darn things will even used set you back quite a bit. A little John Deere HX6, which is the 72-inch brush hog, is used right around $5,000. So on my list of things to get, I definitely want one. That pulls us back out of there. But yeah, the four-wheel drive on this thing, the front wheel assist is very good on it. Usually when you disengage it, it's easier just to get the weight off the front end. It takes 2 seconds to do that with the bucket, and then you've got a nice easy disengagement with the four-wheel drive on this thing. You're not yanking it out and mashing gears. But yeah, so there's a big swampy area there. It's very swampy and wet back here. As you can see, it's just thick as can be, and it's a pretty wet area back in there. We've got a couple of streams that go across the back of the property that don't have any real definition to them for straight through, so they kind of make a ponded area in the back there, and then they go through on that. So yeah, this is just more of it. It's super heavy and thick. You really, you can't see more than probably 30 feet back in there. Then this starts to go over towards the neighbor's house. I've got about a quarter of an acre between myself and him. You can see his place back over there. And as I run down the side of my property, or in the front here, there's just a nice clear area. There's all the grass, that I mow over here versus them. This used to go back a ways towards another neighbor's house, and that's kind of grown all in since I moved in here. But my property, I own all of this up here, and then it darts back, and the property line is just at that tree line right there between my house and his. And then there's an old horse corral here for the neighbor on my south side, and that was from years and years ago when he used to live there, and then he's since sold the place, and the new owners of the property don't have any horses, so they've just let that fence kind of degrade. The deer have jumped through it and into it a bunch of times, and so they make a mess of it when they jump into it. It doesn't hurt them at all, but certainly hasn't been good for the fence. And then along the property line here, there's where the fence is at, is right on the property line. So I've got a spot where I mow in between the trees here that goes back up to the fence there, but I've got kind of a double layer of pines that resides in between. So just a general shot of it. The neighbor and I have had a lot of conversations over the years. We've got our neighbor across the street from us here that I'm approaching as we get up to the street. He's got farmland across from us. It's about an 80-acre, maybe 100-acre plot that goes all the way up the hill to the back here. It's a good spot. He's got a bunch of corn planted in it this year. But if he ever puts this up for sale, my neighbor and I will probably go in on it together and buy it, just to prevent anybody from buying and building here. We'd just like to keep it, own it, keep it the way that it is. Put some food plots on it if we wanted to. Kind of keep the area that they currently maintain as farmland as part of ours. But that's in the distant future here. I don't know if the farmer's going to give it up anytime soon. They've had that farm in the family for many, many generations, so hopefully it just stays farmland. But if it ever does come up, then that's one of the ones we're going to go after and try and buy that all up. So coming down up to the north end of my lot, it's got a good tree line here, kind of a break between the neighbor and I. This is he's a good buddy of mine. I really like him. Super guy. And his wife's really nice, so love having them as neighbors. They're wonderful to be next door to. So this is the north edge of my property line and the south edge of his. Got a lot of areas in here where grass doesn't grow very well. Being close to a lake, this was all glacier formed, way back when, and so there's a ton of sand here that I would imagine this was all underwater at one point in time, and then as Lake Michigan has receded, this has become usable land from the downsizing of Lake Michigan over many millennium. But so it's tough to get grass to grow here. It's not an easy thing, but it certainly looks good when it does grow. My ex, she used to refer to it as the golf course because it was 4 acres of mowed area that I would maintain. So yeah, this gets us right back where we started from, right back to the back of the property, and kind of a nice little area. And like I say, easy to maintain with this tractor these days. That 72-inch finish mower on the back does a heck of a nice job. So that's it, my friends. It's a little bit of a tour of the property and some future plans. Like I say, we'll put a lane back here. Whether I go, down this area here, where we just push that log back, or if I go further to the north by my neighbor, we'll figure it out. He and I are working on it along with the neighbor who this property backs up to. He would like to, like I say, push the lane up here too. So we'll be putting this to use here eventually. It's been quite a few years that I've been here now. I've lived on this property for about 15 years, and so I'm enjoying it. It's a nice place to live, but needs a lot of work from a finishing standpoint, from what I want it to be versus what it is today. So we'll get it there. Guess we'll catch you guys on the next one.